Getting to the heart of the matter. Back to Guy, Ben, and Frank with more Inside the News.
Welcome back to our third segment of Inside the News. Typically, this is our election trail segment. We will only have this for about another 3 or 4 weeks, and then the election will occur. Ben Brunson in the bottom middle, and we've got Frank Vernuccio on the top left. My name's Guy Wehman, and that's if you're watching us on AUN TV or on YouTube. And maybe you're listening to us on one of our affiliates across the country. We thank you. Or our podcast on SoundCloud. We thank all of you for listening and contributing as listeners on the program. Okay, Frank, let's get right to it. And there's a lot going on. I think Greater America, they're tired of talking about all this stuff. They're tired of the 3.5 to 4 years of bashing Trump. And do you think, and then I'm going to let you take off here, but do you think that people are just saying, enough of this? If we elect the Democrats, this will go away because life was, we didn't have all this back and forth and all this bickering before Trump got into office. And yet the world is better. The America is better. Our economy is better, and people's lives are better because of the Trump economy and him being president. And so then you got this double-edged sword going on here, Frank.
Well, in a nutshell, you have revealed the Democrats' basic strategy. They cannot win on policy or on issues. The economy is much better under Donald Trump. America's safety is much better under Donald Trump. We've achieved energy independence under Donald Trump. So the Democrats have to run on something. They want to exhaust the public. Just as they said the most scandalous administration in history, that of Barack Obama, was scandal-free, they have attempted one thing after the other since the election of Donald Trump in 2016 to state that this administration is somehow illegitimate, that somehow society can no longer endure the success of Donald Trump and the success of the economy under Donald Trump. And so we've seen the phony Russian collusion scandal. We've seen phony scandals one after the other being levied at the president in the hopes that there will be more attention paid to the phony scandals than to the success of the Trump administration. And of course, when you have all the levers of information at your fingertips, whether it's in the mass media, whether it's on the internet in places like Facebook and Twitter, and certainly within the educational system, you can get away with this nonsense and not pay a penalty for it. And that's exactly where we're seeing so. If you look at the analysis, listen if you have a strong stomach to CNN, MSNBC, and the major networks, and notice how they don't get into the specifics of issues, that it's all hate. If you do a study, as some of our folks have done up here at the New York Analysis, of the types of comments that you see on social media about the candidates in respective parties, the Republican or more conservative folks who go on Facebook or on Twitter talk about specific policy issues. The folks on the left, on the Democratic side, tend to make broad general statements. We hate Donald Trump. Donald Trump's a racist. Donald Trump's a sexist. Donald Trump, probably eats babies for breakfast. They are general comments without any kind of background support whatsoever. And it's a real microcosm of how the national conversation is going and how the strategy of the Democrats is to avoid in-depth discussion of the issues and instead levy ad hominem attacks against the incumbent president.
You know something, Ben? Frank has been holding that back for months, and he just we just said go, and he took off. Now, Ben, now it's your turn. Go.
Well, look, we have we're going to see what happens in this election. My gut says that it'll be a Trump victory, but I could certainly be wrong. If we go back and Biden wins and we get the blue sweep that a lot on the left stream media are dreaming about, of course, this is very reminiscent of 4 years ago when there was the 99% probability of a Hillary win and blah, blah, blah. But if we do get a Biden victory, we're going to go back, unfortunately, to the Obama-Biden style of government, which is heavy regulation, bad tax policy, and a wet blanket being over the U.S. economy, which is what we saw for 8 years, where we only grew at 2% a year for 8 years under the Obama-Biden presidency. And if you'll recall, a lot of the economists at the time tried to justify that by saying, well, that was the new natural maximum growth rate of a mature economy like the United States. That's a bunch of hogwash. We can grow at 3-4% a year. We were touching on that under Donald Trump by having good tax policy and getting rid of the regulatory overreach that really has driven what was going on the 8 years prior. And we have to continue that. And if we can go back to good growth rates once again. We'll have an incredible rebound from this shutdown, and we're going to have 4 great years if we have the right outcome in November.
Well, there is so much at stake here, and we've got the vice presidential debates coming up this week. This is the week of those. And then there's going to be another presidential debate against Biden and Trump. Now, the left, they were so hoping that Trump was going to be so in the hospital and sick and not being able to recover that he was not going to be able to be a part of that second debate. And they were salivating at that, Frank. And yet now him coming out and saying, don't be fearful of the mask, which I think was good for America to see him come out and hear that statement. Your thoughts?
You know, there's an issue surrounding the debates, I think, that needs to be brought up. And that is trying to think of the right word, perhaps the inability of the Republicans to properly get the debates on an even keel. Chris Wallace was an atrocious selection for a debate moderator. Just because he has an affiliation with Fox doesn't necessarily mean that he is not biased against the Republican candidate. The next moderator, I understand, of a presidential debate is someone who used to be an intern for Joe Biden. And you have to wonder what in heaven's name was the leadership of the GOP thinking on agreeing to these terms. This is not news. This is not anything new for the Republican Party. They have been incompetent in getting an even shot for Republican candidates in presidential debates going back a number of years. And certainly going to this next debate, you really have to wonder, considering how bad Chris Wallace was in the first presidential debate, why they didn't take firmer steps to ensure a more even-handed moderator for the second presidential debate.
The Commission on Presidential Debates, they're the ones who are in charge of this. And yes, they said, okay, we'll try and make this fair and even-keeled, and so we'll pick someone from Fox. And they picked Chris Wallace. Well, if you've been watching Fox at any amount of time, you would know that Chris Wallace is not conservative at all. He's in the middle, leaning left, isn't he, Ben?
Yeah, unfortunately, there's no one really out there that you can point to as that unbiased source. I would say maybe a Brett Baer would be about as,
or Brit Hume.
Or Brit Hume would be about as the couple of people that I could think of. They're both associated with Fox, so that's a problem for the Democrats. But I can't think of anyone in the left-stream media that's not in the tank for Biden and his presidency. So it's a challenge to find somebody who would be a fair arbiter for a debate going forward.
All right, that's going to bring this segment to a close. Next, we're going to be talking about the Pig Book. And we're not talking about Peppa Pig on children programming, but you'll be interested. The Pig Book coming up.
You're listening to Wehman, Brunson, and Vernuccio, Inside the News.